Over the last 6 months, I've been asked to review several of the premium electric cars. So the Mustang Mach-E, the Hyundai Ioniq 5, the BMW i4 M50, the Tesla Model Y and the Model 3 Performance. And then I thought, we have a great saying here, catch yourself on. And I needed to catch myself on because I love driving. And although I admire EVs for their technology and what they're capable of, that's not what driving is about for me. That's not why I started RMS 20 years ago. That's not why I got into motorsport and do track days and go to car shows. It's about the enjoyment of driving. And an EV doesn't do that for me in the same way as something like this does. So I thought I would talk about this. So this is my Porsche 981 Cayman GT4. I'll just quickly take you around the car because this is more about me than the EVs themselves. So very lucky to have this. I love it. It is finished in the classic Guards red colour. There's only about 500 of these 981 generations on the road. So the 981 is the second generation of Porsche Cayman, and they were made from 2012 to 2016, but they only built these between 2015 and 2016. When Porsche effectively said, right, we're going to put proper power into the Cayman and we're going to get the GT Motorsport department of Porsche to build it. And they've produced something quite spectacular. So before I had this car, I had a Lotus Exige S3, the supercharged V6 one with the Toyota engine in it. And I just love the balance of a mid-engine car. Porsche didn't want to put all this power in here because they probably thought, we have this 911 brand and we don't want to hurt that brand in putting one of our good engines in here. Now it's not the 500 horsepower monster that they put in the GT3 and more recently in the new generation GT4 RS, but it's still plenty. It's still 380 horsepower, 60 in the low fours, 190-ish miles an hour top end, but it's a flat 6. There's no GPF in this car because of the year of it. 6-speed manual, limited slip diff. It's rolling on 20s, on Cup 2s, and at the rear on 295 section tires. The engine's back there, so great traction. My car has the steel brakes, the red calipers, but you obviously can option these up with carbon ceramics as well. My car has PDLS, which is Porsche's dynamic lighting system. You steer and the lights point with the road. Over the standard 981 Cayman as well, you have a different front end profile with a different front bumper and this big lip and all sorts of ducting and cooling ducts because the car has to deal with that bigger output. Of course the whole car's swollen. It's swollen this way as well. It's to hide the wider track here, and you've got these lovely big ducts, and it's just proportionally I think the car just looks perfect. I remember when these come out and reading about it in Evo magazine, and the Porsche GB press cars were all Guards red and it looked exactly like this. That was so cool. Mine's a Clubsport, and that makes more sense inside. Also the spoiler, I'll turn it around, we can have a look at the back end before we hop inside. So the back end is just again in perfect proportion. You have this sort of spoiler lip here that's maybe more traditional standard Cayman, and then you have this large adjustable spoiler. You can get the tools out and you can put 5 or 6 degrees of angle in this and remove some front fence to give the car more downforce, because it's actually something brilliant to take out on track as well as drive on the road. Inside the GT4 is pretty special as well. My car's optioned with these absolutely incredible carbon seats. They're the 918 seats as they're called. They're a fixed back bucket, but they're very comfortable, and the driving position nothing like it. It's just perfect. I sit low, I have the wheel directly in front of me, and I have this sort of line of view straight across the bonnet. It's very race car like. Lovely Alcantara steering wheel, and because this is a club sport car, I have extinguisher, 6-point harness, and a half cage in the car as well. And all the things, they have leather trimmed dash and stuff like that. But the other thing is, it's all, apart from maybe the ring pull and the seat pull, it's standard Cayman in here, which is a good thing, by the way, because you get all this sort of normal storage and cup holders and all that sort of stuff that I didn't have in my Lotus and I don't really care about. But if I wanted to drive the car to work, I could do that no problem. It's just very special to do so. But this is the other thing the EVs don't do. Oh, lovely short stubby shift knob. Now that's just wonderful. Let's go out on the road and see what it's like. So I'm out on the road in the GT4, and this is my car and I love it, so I'm going to obviously tell you how brilliant it is. But there's a problem. The GT4 is so good, that makes it a very easy process. So first of all, the seating position is excellent. I sit in these stunning 918 bucket seats, the carbon seats, nice and low, with great visibility and sort of that racer driving position. Alcantara steering wheel, Alcantara gear knob, and the steering wheel is just perfect size and it just feels great. The steering's fantastic actually as well. Electric power steering in these cars, so a world away from the Lotus that I had previously with no power steering whatsoever. So you don't still get the sort of high bandwidth feedback that I got in the Lotus, but this tells me everything I need to know. I always know where the car is in the road and what the road's doing underneath me, and you can still feel the cambers and everything else. But one thing that I noticed with the Lotus is you can sacrifice a bit of sort of high speed stability with that, whereas the GT4 seems to do it all. The front suspension is lifted wholesale from the GT3, and the rear suspension is all bespoke to the GT4. It's all fully adjustable, so it has adjustable ride height. It has you can shim it for caster and camber. You can adjust it. I think it has 3 levels of adjustment on the anti-roll bars as well, because of course, as most road cars do, all road cars come in with a bit of understeer dialed in the front end, so we all don't go backwards into the hedge, we plough forwards into the hedge instead. But you can dial all that out. All the facilities are there in the car, and on the track this car is absolutely fabulous. It just is so much fun. But even on the road, it's so compliant. So it has adaptive dampers, it has the Porsche's PASM, and with it off, the car just glides. I'm on a B road here at the moment, and yes, we're rolling on 20-inch wheels, low profile tyres. Now, get a bit of tyre roar from the 295 Cup 2s at the back, but it's kind of to be expected really. But in here is perfectly comfortable. I actually understand why people use these as a daily driver, because they're very comfortable. You get all your typical Cayman mod cons and engineering to make life easy, but you have all this other trickery going on as well. So the 3.8 flat 6 is a real peach. I know it's not the screamer, 9,000 RPM screamer that's in the GT3, but even still this revs to just a shade under 8,000 RPM, and it just sounds absolutely incredible. It's hairs in the back of your neck stuff, any of these great Porsche engines. Although, again, on a run, it will do 30 miles to the gallon, no problem. So, the breadth of capabilities of this car are they're just astounding. It will really do everything, except, of course, doesn't have any back seats, but that's a platform issue. Actually, quite a lot of storage, because unlike a 911, you have, okay, they have back seats, but they have a front and you have a boot at the rear, so you have a reasonable amount of storage front and back. Certainly enough, you can take the car away for a weekend or for a week, fully loaded up, and there's all sorts of cubbies and storage and all the rest. But look, it's all about the driving, and that's what I love about this car. This is what EVs do not give at all. This is where EVs couldn't be further away. This just draws me into wanting to drive it and wanting to enjoy it. The gear shift is unreal. Just have this beautifully snicky shift. It's perfect every time. Put the car into sport mode. All sport mode does in this is give you the auto blip, but the auto blip just works perfectly. It's laser precision and gives you on the downshift whatever revs exactly you need. My GR Yaris has what Toyota called IMT, which is a similar sort of thing. It's a lot more of a guesstimation, as if you tap the throttle. Of course, you can turn that off and heel toe if you want, which I'm very much used to, driving lots of Hondas and drift cars and my Lotuses, but the Porsche does it better than me every time. So that button is actually always on as when I step into the car. The other button we have here is the valved exhaust. Turn it on, listen to this. Absolutely beautiful. So, when you're driving this car on as well, it has a beautifully flat torque curve. It just pulls hard to the red line and eggs you on to grab a gear. In fact, probably one of the only criticisms levelled at the GT4 is the long second gear. Gear ratio in second. You can do just over 80 miles an hour in second gear, which sounds a wee bit ludicrous. And okay, maybe it is a bit. On track, it's a non-issue because you're rowing up and down the gears, and that's absolutely fine. And sometimes you're in corners, so you're second in other cars. For example, my previous Lotus, which the gears were much shorter, that you would be in third. On the road, interestingly, it's not as big an issue as well, because the car comes alive from 4,500 RPM and really starts to open up and really pulls hard, that you have this huge range of torque. You don't have to be in second. You can be in third gear riding the torque and sitting around the speed limit rather than worrying about your license. And let's be honest, 400 horsepower, this is 380 horsepower, 400 horsepower, that's all you maybe want for the road. So as a road car, this is a lovely package. The other thing I'll say about the exhaust as well is that on the later cars, so the 4-litre 718 GT4 came out in 2019 and it has a GPF. So these particular filters just absolutely throttle the note, the exhaust note of those cars, which is a shame too, because that 4-litre engine in that car is a real peach. That car is actually slightly heavier, so I talked about this car being 1340 kilos. I think the 718 is hovering just over the 1400 kilos mark. I'm careful to say, I think it's 1420. Careful to say, because someone in the comments will go, well actually, it's 1417.63. Like, well, I'm just doing it over the top of my head. I don't have Google in front of me here to help me out. So, what's the GT4 bad at? Ah, that's the problem. That is the problem. I think the worst problem about the GT4 is getting your hands on one. and don't get me wrong, I feel very lucky to have one. Very difficult to get hold of one new, extremely difficult. I contacted lots of dealers and ended up, because I was looking at a 718 and these, and in the end it was a much more straightforward process for me to buy from the second-hand market, and for my budget as well. Although the prices are so close, the 981 GT4s and 718 GT4s overlap in price. It's interesting. Some people say, well, this car is the better car because it just sounds a bit better, it's a wee bit sharper, it's a wee bit lighter, whereas the newer car has a wee bit more torque, not 4 litres, a bit meatier. It has to carry that bit more weight around, so I don't know. I think they're both absolutely brilliant cars. They are last of their breed as well, absolutely, because the next Cayman's going to be electrified. Let's hear that noise again. Slip road. Absolutely beautiful. So, on track then, this car is excellent as well. Steel brakes, I never found any fade of them when doing a couple of track days. I am sure the ceramic brakes are fantastic, and it just so happened, whatever cars I was looking at the time, because I was buying from the second-hand market, that this one had steel brakes, which was better maybe in a way if I ever had to replace pads or discs. It would be a much cheaper exercise. The ceramic brakes are supposed to last the life of the car, but then when you're doing the research about these things, well, they actually have wear markers on them, and those ceramic discs, those carbon ceramic discs, of course, you can wear them down, and they are extremely expensive. So it's trying to balance that up, because as an option they are £6,000-8,000. It's a conscious decision exercise. However, what a nice choice to have if you have the budget for it. So it steers fantastically, it sounds fantastic, the engine's a peach. It's normally aspirated, 6-speed manual, limited slip differential, engine in the middle, which gives it this beautiful, the balance of the car. The car loaded up in a long, fast corner, and you can just feel the car just sitting there. As you come on and off the throttle, you can feel the car banking and moving. It just flows with the corner. It's actually something that I love about a mid-engine car, is just that feeling of balance, and the GT4 just has that in spades, and it gives you so much confidence. You can really move. You can really move, and then you can just turn everything off, sit back, relax. In fact, okay, there's a criticism: the stereo's pretty crap. The Porsche PCM system is pretty rubbish. I've added Apple CarPlay to mine, which makes it a lot more hospitable, but for a car built in 2016 that doesn't have Bluetooth streaming, is pretty poor. The good news is the soundtrack with the exhaust valve open is a much more pleasant thing to listen to anyway, and you don't get that with an electric car. In fact, a lot of modern cars at the moment, you just don't get that exhaust note at all. It's all hidden behind Euro 7 exhaust regulations and emissions regulations. So there you have it. This is my GT4. Hope you've enjoyed that. I do have some other reviews on the channel. I will get out in my GR Yaris as well and tell you a bit more about that. I did a short video on a demo car I had back a couple of years ago, but I think it's much more interesting when you've had something like this. I've had it for over a year, to give you a feel of what it's actually like to own. And I love this car, really do.